The ending of Stone Ocean was heartbreaking, which is why it is one of my favorite endings in the JoJo franchise. I have yet to read part 7 or 8, but I would place the ending of part 6 right next to the part 3 ending and the part 1 ending, which were also sad. But we're not gonna talk about part 6 today. Instead, we're just gonna talk about a what if scenario. A scenario in which things were done differently. So, grab yourself a bottle of water and some seaweed crackers and listen to my voice as I tell you this what if scenario of how Stone Ocean should have ended. One of the things I did not like about part 6 was the lack of backup Jotaro came with after returning back to Jolene. Besides Hermes, which was already injured previously in battle, Jotaro just came in with a harpoon gun, which was honestly silly when you think about it. He had just been released from the hospital, and rather than getting more companions to help him against this world-threatening threat, he just came in with a harpoon gun. Like, are you serious? That's just silly, you know? So instead, this is what I would have done. It is likely that the Speedwagon Foundation ended up contacting Josuke all the way from Morio just to try and see if his stand, Crazy Diamond, could potentially heal Jotaro back to health. And by failing to do so, the Speedwagon Foundation could have explained to Josuke what is at stake if Jotaro is not back to health due to the enemy they're up against. And by acknowledging that Morio could be in danger as well, he would have been one of the first backups that Jotaro would have at his side if he were to wake up. Not wanting to alarm his family and friends over in Morio, the now 28-year-old Josuke would just wait for Jotaro to wake up. Before you ask, but what about Giorno? Sorry, he's all the way in Italy, so he wouldn't even know besides the whole time running wild. But yeah, he can stay in Italy where he belongs. Assuming that Joseph Joestar has now passed away from old age, but Susie-Q still being alive and still visiting Jotaro because she cares about him, she could contact the Germans to provide weapons for both Josuke and Jotaro for when the time comes, if Jotaro wakes up. The promise day comes and Jotaro wakes up from his slumber. He is surprised to see his uncle Josuke, but as soon as he wakes up, he tells him to get ready for what's to come. So both of them head over to the chopper owned by the Speedwagon Foundation, and they start to gear up for what's to come. Armed with grenades, pistols, and automatic weapons, they begin putting them all over their suits. Time acceleration begins, and the Speedwagon helicopter that's carrying both Josuke and Jotaro picks up Hermes on the way. Since she's been injured, Crazy Diamond heals her up really quickly, and Jotaro offers Hermes a gun, which she refuses and instead grabs all the grenades that the Germans provided for them. They begin their way towards the location of Pucci and Jolene. Just like in the anime, Jotaro and company arrive in the nick of time before Jolene gets shot by Pucci. And just as he saves Jolene, Josuke heals her up with Crazy Diamond. Pucci notices that Crazy Diamond has healing abilities, so rather than targeting Jolene or Jotaro, he's trying to get to Josuke, since he's the biggest threat now with his healing capabilities. Jotaro, wanting to make sure that her daughter Jolene gets fully healed, he starts to buy time by talking to Pucci. But just as he's talking to him, Hermes pulls the pins out of all the grenades that she carried with her and starts to throw them over to Pucci to end it all. Pucci begins to think, should I run away to not get blown up? Or should I take a risk and try kicking one of these grenades over to Josuke to not worry about him anymore? In less than a second, Pucci decides to kick all 3 grenades, but only manages to kick one. Jotaro, knowing that he cannot use the world at this moment since he had just used it to save Jolene, he screams out of fear for Josuke. Josuke begins shouting to Jolene to grab Emporio to get some cover. And just as he finishes saying that, Hermes stares in fear for what she has just done. The explosion begins, and loud, painful screams begin coming out of the room. Blood is everywhere. And Hermes screams, "I can't feel my legs. I can't see anything." Turns out that Hermes had taken the blow for Josuke, since she had known how much more important Josuke is to this operation compared to her. And not only that, but she had just compromised the whole operation due to her reckless behavior. The explosion was big enough that it started to cause the building they were on to begin falling out. As everyone started to evacuate the building, Josuke started to heal Hermes from her wounds. And as he was doing that, Pucci came out of nowhere and started shooting towards Josuke's head. Crazy Diamond came out and managed to block the bullets with his hand, but he started to scream in pain, for he had never been shot before. Jotaro used the world to use his own gun to shoot over at Pucci, but in an unexpected turn of events, his gun jammed, which gave enough time for Pucci to begin the sequence of Made in Heaven, just like in the anime. Jolene noticed there was an automatic weapon on the ground after the collapse of the building they were on, and just as Pucci was starting to transition into Made in Heaven, she unloaded the whole clip onto Pucci's body, which then Pucci started to dodge due to his time acceleration. All 50 shots from the automatic weapon were dodged with no problem whatsoever. Taking advantage of his hyperspeed, Made in Heaven Pucci grabbed the pistol that was also on the ground and started taking out Hermes, followed by Anasui, which was injured. Josuke began running for his life, for he thought he had done enough. Pucci began to mock Jotaro for not being willing to get near him. "What's wrong, Jotaro? Are you really that scared to get close to me?" Which caused Jotaro to get angry, and despite being spooked, he marched forward. Jolene tried to stop his father from going on. She told him, "He's too fast, father. We need to do something else. This just won't work." But Jotaro kept marching onwards, not knowing what to do. Jolene started praying. Who did she pray to? Who knows? But she was praying. And just like that, it was just Pucci, Jolene, Emporio, and Jolene left in the battlefield. Pucci started feeling ecstasy from his newfound powers, which caused him to start shouting out of joy. "You know what would be really funny? Do you want to know what would be really funny?" So he reached for Emporio's gun and then said, "Killing you with your own friend's gun." And just as he was about to shoot the first bullet, as he pulled the trigger, Pucci blew up, for that gun had been boogie bombed by Jotaro Kujo, and that's the end to the alternate ending of how Stone Ocean should have ended. Thank you for watching.